if he was good this year. Okay, let's get to the wide receiver talk. We're 37 minutes in. There was a rumor today on Twitter that the Ravens had called the Niners asking about a trade for Deebo, which the Ravens have already added, Derrick Henry. And, now we know they have Lamar. So you got the best running quarterback, and then you just added a horse of a tailback, and now you want Deebo, like the ultimate running wide receiver. Giving them Deebo might be delivering them the Super Bowl. I mean, that's how incredible and diverse their rushing attack could potentially be with Deebo. So you got that going on, and then look, the LaCosta is his name, or DaCosta, Eric DaCosta, the general manager, basically came out and said, no, that ain't true. That's not true. So I don't know if it's true or not, but that rumor's out there. The other one that's out there is a young lady in Jacksonville. What's her name? I had it here. Mia O'Brien, Jacksonville Jags reporter, says Aiyuk interest mutual between the Jags and his reps. Now, people read that and were like, well, wait a second. The Niners aren't saying that. No, it's not mutual between the Jags and the Niners. Otherwise, maybe the deal would be done. It's mutual between Aiyuk's representation and the Jags, that he's interested in them and they're interested in him being in Jacksonville. What do you think? I mean, it's a premier position. He turns 26 this week. His best football, I think, is ahead of him. He's on, he's due to make $14 million this year. He wants a new deal. He says he wants a new deal after the free agent period goes by. So, you look at the money that has been thrown around to Ridley and what's coming for Jefferson, and there's reason to believe that he's going to be asking for $30 million plus a year. Jaguars own the 17th pick in the draft. Would you move Aiyuk or Deebo, or are the Niners absolutely going to go forward this next year with Aiyuk, Deebo, and JJ? What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Vish.
Yeah, so that's a little bit different than some of the stuff that you were talking about there before. So I kind of want to touch on that, which is like Aiyuk to the Jaguars first, which is from Aiyuk's standpoint, like I understand what his representatives are doing, right? They identified a team with a young quarterback, B, the cap space and the capacity technically on paper, theoretically, if they wanted to pay him, and then C, where he's the clear-cut number one option on the Jaguars. You also get the quote-unquote mutual interest from the Jaguars Jaguars, which one do you guys prefer?
Jaguars.
Whatever. Let's go with Jaguars.
Can we make it a soft J? Can we say Jaguars?
Jaguars.
Is that out of the realm of possibility? I just want to...
Right. Steve Smith has texted in. He says, go with Jags. Go with
Jags. Okay, we'll go with Jags. Okay. For the Jags, right? Just another guy, just another team. Brandon Aiyuk makes sense because he would become easily their number one receiver immediately. But let's look at the people involved in this equation. We're talking about Trent Baalke, who 2 years ago gave record money to Christian Kirk, just doled out $10+ million to Gabe Davis. They paid Evan Ingram last year a ton of money as a number one tight end. And now you're going to tell me they're going to ship a first-round pick and pay Brandon Aiyuk even more money, a position that Trent Baalke has historically hated drafting. He's drafted poorly, and he's also signed poorly in free agency. I don't know that one necessarily makes sense. I think it's just Aiyuk's representation just pushing forward and negotiating and trying to create traction for the 49ers. Now, to the second part of your question, do I think the 49ers go forward with Aiyuk and Deebo this offseason? Yes, because I think what ultimately would make them move off of Aiyuk would be getting the kind of pick that would allow them to draft a wide receiver that has similar talent to Aiyuk, right? And you would want to get one of the top 4 or 5, 6 receivers best in the draft. There's probably 5 receivers maybe going in the top 20, I would say. I don't know how you guys look at the wide receivers, but that's how they seem to be stacking out. And so because of that, I don't know a lot of teams that would make that move in the top 20 anyway. And that's why I think Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel ultimately end up with the 49ers next year and possibly help them with the Super Bowl run.
What do you think,
Jesse? When I look at the Ravens rumor, first of all, great. The team denied it. Sure. We can talk about that. The Ravens, we know, were also interested around the time that they were figuring out if they could sign Deebo. And usually teams don't stop being interested in players unless, of course, they've gotten a major injury or they've fallen off a cliff. Neither of those have happened to Deebo. So, yeah, I'm sure they are interested in Deebo. I'm sure they did pick up the phone. I'm sure the conversation was very short. It was probably went like, yeah, we're going to take a massive cap hit. You can maybe call us after June 1st and try again when it's feasible for us to do. But until then, like, it's not really a possibility for us.
Right.
So not likely that one happens. And then as far as Aiyuk goes, it is the most tradable asset that they have. It just is, because zero cap hit if you trade him. It's going to bring you the most back. All of that lines up. All of that plays. But if I have to take my guess, I'm going to bet that he's on this team. That being said, again, every time one of these wide receivers gets paid big money, a guy like Pittman, a guy like Ridley, we saw Mike Evans get paid. That's not helping the 49ers negotiations. And this is what always frustrated me about the 49ers is that they wait so long. They're usually the last ones to make a move on their player. And I think it always ends up costing them a couple million every single time they do one of these deals. Now, the interesting thing is the rumor came out, or the report came out, that they were going to work on a deal basically between free agency and the draft with Aiyuk. Well, that's not encouraging for me, because when I look at what the 49ers do, and they traditionally wait until later in the offseason, that just tells me that they're trying to figure out what his number is. And if they don't think it's feasible, they're going to try to shop him and trade him. That's what that tells me. So do I ultimately think that happens? No, but I do think it's more of a possibility than people want to think. You know, people really think like teams don't call on these players and the 49ers don't listen. It's not like the 49ers are sitting there going, la, 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 we're not listening. No, every time somebody calls, they're like, yeah, what do you think? They're going to listen. And if they like the offer, they're going to make a trade. These guys in the front offices are not tied to players the way that you, myself, Vish, and everybody in this chat might be, because we're fans. They do not care. This is a business. If it makes my team better, if I like what you're offering, this player can go. So everybody's expendable.
Right. And I will say one thing real quick, Jesse, because you didn't make this point, but you kind of hinted at it, right? I think it's the Calvin Ridley deal, and how is that going to affect Brandon Aiyuk? I will remind people that the Jaguars threw historic money at Christian Kirk, and people were really scared on what it was going to do to A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and Deebo Samuel, who were all coming up. They all held out, and they all got less money. And I think Deebo, DK, Terry McLaurin, and A.J. Brown all fit in, I think, somewhere between 5 to 10 in the NFL when they ultimately got paid in terms of highest receivers in the NFL being paid. So I know what you're saying, and I think that there's validity to that point. And I'm not saying just because it happened with Christian Kirk, it's now going to happen with Calvin Ridley and Brandon Aiyuk. I just wanted to throw it out there too, so we're considering all the variables that may not possibly, who knows, factor in the Brandon Aiyuk deal. Sorry, Krug, I cut you off.
I would say prepare yourself for a trade. Prepare yourself for a trade. If you're one of these people that is going to be like emotionally bent if one of your guys gets traded, prepare yourself for a trade. Why? Because Tyreek Hill was awesome in Kansas City and he got traded. And Devontae Adams was absolutely Green Bay's best receiver and he got traded. And A.J. Brown was an awesome young player for Tennessee and he got traded. And I just think that it just seems like the NFL personnel world. I mean, also I would say to anybody, don't tell me what everybody's saying. Tell me what they're doing. If you have, you listen to what somebody says, but if they're doing things, pay attention to what they're doing over what they're saying. And look what the Niners are doing. They're interviewing, Talieisi Fuaga. They're interviewing J.C. Latham. They're interviewing guys that are going to go in the middle of the first round. So on some level, they want to be prepared for swapping, either trading up or swapping one of these receivers and getting up into higher in the first round. So I would say prepare for it.
Do you think they can get a top 20 pick for Brandon Aiyuk?
In the deal that we're talking about here, I think he's going to Jacksonville for 17. And here's the thing: if you're Trent Baalke and you can't pick a rookie receiver, maybe it's in your best interest to go sign a free agent. Because you're right, he has done a horrible job of handicapping rookie receivers. And let's be honest about rookie receivers, even if they're great, a lot of times there's a 1 year off period. So you could love Malik Neighbors, but if you got one more year on your contract, and Malik Neighbors takes 1 year to adjust to the league, you're just drafting for somebody else. So I don't know. I mean, I think that, let me ask you guys this. What do you think the cutoff number is on AAV for Aiyuk's deal, since his group wants to wait till after the market's kind of been reset and reestablished? The Niners clearly, by looking at all these players that are going in the middle of the first round, to me, it's like announcing that, hey, we have a number, and if it goes beyond our number, we will trade the player. What number do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't know what it is for the 49ers, but I got to imagine the floor is 26 AAV for Aiyuk.
I think it's up to Deebo.
That's the starting point, right? Like for him, he's looking at it going, that better be the number that I get. That better be the number that I get. So I don't know. I don't know what the 49ers are.
Why do you say that number?
Well, first of all, I mean, again, players don't necessarily pocket watch, but he's looking across at Deebo and going, okay, well, 2 years ago, you got around $24 million. The salary cap just went up X. I love you, Deebo, but I think I'm better than you. And I want 26. I mean, Pittman just got 23. I'm better than him. Ridley just got 23. I'm better than him. Mike Evans had a great career. Appreciate him. But at this stage, I'm better than him. And he just got 26 or 20, whatever it was. And Jefferson's probably going to get upwards of 30. And he's like, okay, well, listen, I'm not on Jefferson's level as far as production. I can't necessarily ask for that. But I think 26, I'd be shocked if he doesn't get, and it doesn't have to happen here. It could happen somewhere else, but he deserves to get paid. I mean, go get your money, man. I'm pro player. These guys deserve to get paid. You get one opportunity at it. That's your guarantee. Go and get paid. I just don't know if the 49ers are going to be willing to meet that demand.
Yeah, I think one, I think he 100% deserves to get paid. Two, if we're talking about a top 15, top 20 pick getting traded for Brandon Aiyuk, like, I think Brandon Ayuk's a great player. I think Brandon Aiyuk deserves to be paid. I'm trading for a top 15 pick for Brandon Aiyuk. I'm running for that trade. Like, that's an easy trade for me.
That pick could be Kinlaw.
But it's a top 15 pick. Like, I don't know that they could, like, DeForest Buckner went for a top 15 pick.
That's what I'm saying.
A top 15 pick for Brandon Aiyuk. On the value chart, I understand what the pick could become.
I would want
more.
Just
in terms of the contract
17.
And the type of talent you're inheriting,
I need more. If I'm giving you, especially in a league where rookie receivers always start slow, and knowing that it's a win now or you're fired kind of a league. And Black Monday is just annually just a bloodletting of executives and coaches. If a team comes knocking on your door for a veteran wide receiver, that means that they have no time to waste. And if they have no time to waste, I want 2 for 1. I want a mid first round pick, like 17, and I want a third round pick. And if nobody's willing to give me that, then I'll stay with my guy. If somebody's willing to cross that bridge, I'll make the trade. That's kind of how
I think that's fair that you want to ask for that, but we've seen the market value for wide receivers. He's not going to get that. He's not going to get that. Nobody's going to offer that. Nobody's going to offer that.
Stephon Diggs had two straight 1,000-yard seasons and 4 straight 5 seasons of 700+ yards, and he was traded for a 22 and a 7th round pick. And to the Bills and the Jets and the Vikings took Justin Jefferson. And by the way, the other part of this question, I think Brandon Aiyuk does deserve to cross this number, but based on what we've seen the Niners and how they've negotiated in the past, I think their threshold is going to be right at $23 million where Deebo Samuel is. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to negotiate that way because they're going to say when Deebo came, he was more marketable than you. He was the number 1 option in our offense, and he was a first-team All-Pro. And that's why he got this money. And you didn't do any of those things. And now you can tell me, Vish, you're completely wrong. And you can be Brandon Aiyuk's agent and argue against that. But I think the Niners, who bargain hard, we know how they bargain. I think that they're going to try to bargain hard that way with Aiyuk. We know that they've had issues crossing their star players in the past. I brought it up in the past. Mike Upati, they didn't want to pay him because they didn't want him to cross Joe Staley, who signed an extension early and didn't ask for a raise at that time, even though he was severely underpaid. So they couldn't afford Upati. I think Deebo's a team captain. Deebo has been a long tenured player. I understand, look, but I think there is a roster politics element to it. I don't think they'll try to cross Deebo.
It's going to be an interesting year because Jacksonville fired a lot of their staff this year, a lot of the defensive staff. There was a bloodletting there. The head coach is still there. Balky's still there. But if they fall on their face, Balky could easily be gone at the end of the year. He knows he doesn't draft rookie receivers well. He knows he needs another receiver. He might be willing to move the first-round pick and another pick for Aiyuk. We'll see. We're going to find out. But
I'd fire him on the spot if he moves 17 and a third-round pick after paying all those guys for Brandon Aiyuk and pays him too.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's Matt Millen drafting 3 receivers in the first round 3 years in a row.
I hear you, but let's go to the mock. If you look at the mock draft and you see it where they're picking at 17, the best receiver after that is Brian Thomas.
Adonai Mitchell.
And then Keon Coleman. Then Lad McConkey. Then Adonai Mitchell. Yeah.
Xavier Legette.
Probably Xavier Worthy.
In that conversation, but
Xavier Legette in round 2. I mean, Troy Franklin, Xavier Worthy. Those guys are second-round picks. Ricky Pearsall from Florida is a really good runner. He's a second-round pick. Trying to think who else is on this list. Looking at it. Devontae Walker. So, it's interesting. It's like, only thing I'll say is if I'm Trent Baalke, I think I'm done at the end of the year if we don't go to the playoffs and make something happen. Because, they're not going to dump the head coach who's won a Super Bowl, and they've already dumped their staff. And, you did pick Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson, and Hutchinson is one of the great players in the entire league. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what lies ahead for Trent Baalke.